Testing. Mm, I hope it's recording. I hope I'm audible. But yeah, today we'll just have a quick video. I won't take too long on how I traded today's GBP CPI. So on the fundamental side of things with today's CPI, I didn't know much about how I can use this information to assist in my trading. So today's analysis was purely technical based. We have NFP tomorrow, and I'm sure that one will involve both, you know, both elements of technical as well as fundamental analysis. But today's one was just technical purely. So we're gonna start from the beginning on how I analyzed and traded these assets, and thankfully I'm using trading view, so I can use the replay function to show you guys exactly how I drew up the setup. So yeah, the first thing I always look for is SMT, and if you can see, like yesterday on Euro USD, I had a bad trade. I still use the same concepts every time, so this is just to highlight that it won't always work. Yesterday it didn't work. Our highs got taken yesterday and we were stopped out, but today we were profitable. So we'll start from the beginning. Let me just clear these charts. Yeah, we'll just focus here. Maybe I can briefly. I'll even delete these so that I just re-download. Like we just do it together. 1 second. Okay, so whenever I start analyzing, I always start from the higher time frame. So I only use two time frames when I trade. I use H4 as well as um 15 minutes. So the H4, I normally use H4 to look for higher SMTs, smart money divergence or fair value gaps on the higher time frames. And then yeah, it becomes a confluence in my lower time frames as well. But yeah, so we had GBP CPI today at 9. So I started looking at the charts maybe an hour before. And if you can see, before this breakout candle we have here, the only thing we had here really and truly were consolidations. So from looking at that, I wasn't really able to, if you look at these areas I have marked, I wasn't able to pinpoint any real SMTs or fair value gaps, because if you can see, it was like a real ranging consolidation market. So from the higher time frame, I wasn't able to have any clue as to whether it was going to go up or it was going to go down. So with this one, I had to completely, rely on the 15 minutes time frame. So yeah, we'll start from there then. So let me even use the replay function. Let me just mark my time frames. I always have the open price for the day marked out on both charts, and then I normally use the high or lows for the day. So let me just mark the charts. Okay. Yeah. So now let me replay. So today's news was at 9 a.m. So that should have been. I'm not sure what time that was in New York, but I'll just know. It was the replay. Okay, so replay. So it was start new. So today's news was that, yeah. So I think, yeah, today's news was at 2 a.m. New York time today. So we'll just analyze to maybe 1:30. I think that's when I started looking at the chart. Yeah, let's say 1:30. So this is both charts at 1:30 today. And the first thing I noticed, yeah, I think this was around the time I started looking at the charts. And one of the first things I was able to notice first was the SMT. So if you see, we have a SMT over here using these highs. So starting from on the Euro USD side, we were able to create a higher high, while on the GBP USD side, we were not able to create a higher high. And I think, yeah, I actually started looking at the charts at this exact moment because while I was looking at it, then I was able to pinpoint this fair value gap. Yeah, let me just mark them. So, anticipating the news, just being the way it was, I continued watching it. So, something that I always need is, the news was for GBP. And if I was to sell the assets, the fact that it was not able to create a higher high as compared to Euro USD, it gives me greater confidence to have looked for sell positions. So just from looking at this, I was more interested in looking at sell positions. But then we still had to let it play out a bit because this is 115. So maybe let me just skip by one candle. Yeah, so here I was still watching, and then if you can see on the GBP USD side, we were respecting the fair value gap I had marked. So that was just giving me more confidence to just focus on positioning myself for sales. But I continued to monitor it since we were still maybe two or three candles away from the CPI drop. And then with this candle, the one that came through next, I was a bit worried because I do feel more comfortable if the fair value gap is respected in terms of price. When I think price closed above the line I had marked, so it made me a bit worried. But the fact that the SMT was still being respected I was only going to change my mind on a sell position if this high was violated and a new high was created. So I just kept the same sentiment, and then oh yeah, so actually now this is the candle for CPI. So I have to go back because this was when now I was marking my sell. So wait, how do I go back? I don't think I've ever gone back. One second. Yeah, no, one second. Okay, yeah. So anyway, I want to go back here. Yeah. So this was the last candle before the CPI drop. So it was time for me to start looking for where I would have my entry marked. So for a normal analysis, I always mark my entries with the candle that breaks structure. So if you can see, we have these highs here that were broken by this candle that the line is touching. So then this becomes my place of entry, my change in state delivery. So I would look for price to close underneath this line. So sometimes in certain news events it will happen and sometimes it doesn't, but my analysis was framed around this candle, meaning now that like I have it marked, we can focus on just GBP USD. So my analysis was centered around this candle which broke these highs, meaning like for example, if it wasn't a news event, what I would need to happen is I would need I'd need price to come below this candle and then close below it and then retouch it, and then that's when I would have my entries. But with news events, it's do or die. So with this being the way I had marked it, I think I actually marked it like this, with the low of that candle being my entry and the high being my stop loss. So for me, it's like, if the market comes back above this candle, then my analysis should be wrong. Sometimes I'll have setups where I'll go conservative and just use the high, but most times one side should be your entry and one side of the candle should be your stop loss, with a risk to reward ratio of 1:2. So yeah, now I was ready with my sell positions. I entered 10 seconds before 2 a.m. New York time, and yeah, let's just see how that played out. Oh, so actually, since I didn't get stopped out, it means I actually just used this high, because I never got stopped out on this trade. So let me just go back again. Sorry about that. Where'd I go? Okay, yeah. Yeah. So this was the trade that I had. So I entered immediately. So I really and truly entered somewhere around here because I started selling 10 seconds before. So I entered at the open of the new candle, but I just framed the setup up like this. And yeah. So what happened was we had a nice drop, and then we had a drop until somewhere there, but I was still like I really knew them, like I had belief that this trade, like I was expecting bearish momentum. So even when I was in this specific one, all I wanted was the candle to close beneath this one, beneath my entry candle, so that I'll still feel like the setup was valid. If it didn't, I would have been worried. But yeah, so let's just go one candle. Yeah, so hey, it moves so quick. Yeah, so let me go back again. Still getting used to this, my bad. I think I have to like play it and stop playing it. But yeah, let me play one candle. Okay, I've paused. So yeah, if you can see here, price did close underneath my candle, but just barely. So that was enough confidence I had to risk the whole, to hold and just continue with my trade. And then yeah, it did consolidate a bit, because I expected, the CPI to be a one-way move, but it did consolidate quite a bit in these two 15-minute candle time frames. But yeah, it still went well. And yeah, we were able to hit TP. And yeah, that's how we were able to hit TP. So just as a reminder, it's only three things that I look for when I trade, which are SMT, fair value gaps, and change in state deliveries. So I had my change in state delivery here. Where the entry was, I had the SMT here, and I had a fair value gap here. So those are the only three things I look for when I'm trading. And yeah, I think maybe these are points someone can use to add benefit to that trading, and that's why I decided to share them today. And hopefully I will also be sharing more content after I learn how to properly use the replay function on TradingView. But yeah, that's how it goes, and that's how we traded. I'm expecting more continuations on GBPUSD tomorrow, but I don't know. We'll just see what the market gives us, and we will trade again, and we'll trade it. So yeah, I hope there's audio in this video. I swear.